nitrate brushed onto the bare wood, and then 00 silk span over the entire airframe. And what you're looking at right now, this blue tint, by the way, is the natural color of the dope I'm using. I use Randolph's non-tautening tinted nitrate dope. Why nitrate? My preference is because it dries glass hard overnight, it's easily sandable, and the low tautening doesn't shrink. It stops shrinking after a while. If you can get to a point where it's not gassing off, you don't smell the dope anymore, you're ready to sand it. As testimony to how these finishes build up, by the way, I use no filler on my finishes whatsoever, as you can see. This plane was finished a year ago, using the identical process that you see here. Feel free to come up and look at it anytime you want. Other than things that I put in it by tweaking flaps and doing whatever else we do with our stunt ships to make them fly, you'll see there is not a bit of grain showing anywhere on this airplane. And I've got a 3.5 to 4-year-old SV11 home. I don't know if people are familiar with it, the blue one. The finish is identical to this. It's 4 years old, still no grain. So I know the finish works. The process works very well. And in my opinion, it's one of the lightest ways to finish, simply because you're not putting anything on the airplane that's not necessary. It's a lot of work. I'm not going to lie to you. It's probably one of the most labor-intensive finishes, but for this type of airplane, this thing will be flying at no more than 61 to 62 ounces. To finish an airplane like this with that type of finish and come in at that weight, you've got to have something going before the color goes on. And this, I feel this nitrate system really, really works. At this point, before I go on to the other portion of my talk, I'd like any questions anybody has about the finishing process.
Not finishing. Can you speak to the inline? What do you expect to gain by the inline? Appears to be inline, or dead inline.
All right, the question is what do I intend to get by putting everything in line? Well, to tell you the truth, I don't know. Okay? The reason why I designed the airplane this way is if you look at the design itself, there's really no place else to put anything. It has to be on one line, okay? And I figured, well, we live in a symmetrical world. Let me really go symmetrical with it. The only asymmetrical portion of this airplane, of course, is the 1-inch longer inboard wing. And I did that just simply by extending the tip an inch. And the anhedral in the wing. But the anhedral in the wing was done specifically to counteract the weight of the pipe on the bottom and, of course, the inverted engine. By the way, this design also solves another potential problem that you have using a pipe system, and that's keeping the header in the pipe cool. I don't think we have a problem with that. Okay? The ventral fins, they're there strictly because the real one has them. And the only concession I'm making to my original design philosophy with these jets is I'm not putting drop tanks or missiles on this particular one because I really plan on this being a very serious airplane. Yes?
3 questions.
3? Wait a minute. One at a time.
What color are you going to finish?
It's going to, are you familiar with my Crusader? Okay, it's going to be the navy gray on top, white on the bottom. I'm going to be using the color scheme of the, I forgot which squadron, but the squadron is based on the USS Constellation. It's the typical navy gray and white. There'll be a red, white, blue chevron diagonally on the nose. The rudders will have a very deep navy blue and gold star motif, as well as the ventral fins, and the usual, jet intake and jet paraphernalia on it. Yes?
Where do you buy your Randolph dope from?
I buy it locally on Long Island, a place called Candle Aviation Supply in Bohemia, Long Island.
3. Why are so many hinges on the outside of the yellow?
Because where you see that brake line, let me hold the airplane up. All right, I'm sorry. He asked me why there was so many hinges on the outside portion of the flaps. If you see over here, there's a line on that flap. That's going to be a brake line. That's going to be a trim tab on the outboard section of the wing. And the inboard section, if you see a similar line, that's going to be a fixed, it's just going to be actually a fixed portion of the wing. It will be an extension of the wing. Any other questions?
The back.
Yeah, Vic, instead of using filler, as you say you don't use, you concentrate on building your substrate by adding an extra layer of silk span? Or
No, what I do, and I have to compliment my friend Wendy on this. Where is he? Boy, the first compliment he gets today, he's not even around to get it. Wood-to-wood fits are really essential in building. Oh, here he is. I just complimented you. Weren't even around to get it. Wood-to-wood fits are really, really essential to this type of building and flying if you want to have it light. You can't make up for bad fits with filler or anything else because there's a phenomenon known as the, we have young people here, the crap fairy that creeps into these things, and before you know it, you'll weigh all your parts, and once you put the airplane together, even if you weigh the glue, for some reason the plane will weigh 10 ounces more than you figured it to, and that's as a result of bad wood-to-wood fits, because no matter what you do, you have to fill that. But getting back to your original question, my entire finishing process, obviously you're not reading my finishing column in Stunt News. Okay, I've taken it step by step. We've done it in 12 issues so far. Once you're satisfied with your wood-to-wood fits, you brush on 3 coats of nitrate clear. The silk span, the 00 silk span is put on top of that, and what I generally do is I adhere the silk span to the structure using maybe 10% dope and 90% thinner. Basically, what you're using is a thinner to soak through the silk span and to adhere to the nitrate underneath. And then I brush 5 to 6 more coats of nitrate on top of that.
Now what we're going to try to do,
That's block sanded back down, practically
wait for
to the
Dan
paper,
Banjock to
and then
go to the
I spray on
bathroom,
3 or 4
and then
more
we're
coats
going
of
to light his little
nitrate,
aluminum
and then
plane. Then I'm going
this
to go
is the
over there
result
and
of
ask
that,
him to
okay?
videotape
That first sanding,
bring it
after
over
the
and
first
get it on
5 brush
tape. And
coats,
when it
is
isn't
what
here,
really
you can't
gives
find
you
it, I'll get
finish.
him on a video.
But I can't emphasize enough that this
trying to
takes
distract
time.
him right
After
now.
you brush on those 5, 6 coats of clear and you
Zing
go for your
banjo.
first finishing, I walk away from the airplane for at least a month. What I generally do is time my building to where I'll put this airplane down, and this year I just happened to have a lot of fun building a couple of half-A planes for my grandson, and then I went back to it. I sprayed, the final coat of clear was sprayed on this Thursday night. I will not touch this airplane again probably for another 2 weeks. It's a long finishing process, but there's the result of it. That airplane will look the same 3 years from now as it does right now. Yes?
It's all very aerodynamically designed. Now, when you designed them, when you put the original, did you ever have any problems regarding the flat air intakes on either side? But that's about the only area where I can see wind resistance. And if so, or if not, did you ever think of perhaps making them functional air intakes as per cooling system to the tube pipe?
In answer to your first question, that question was asked when I built the first one, and to be quite honest with you, with the engine running, I didn't notice that a problem. There was no pitch up or pitch down moment associated with them, and what I attribute that to, and again, this is just a guess, I'm not an aerodynamic engineer by any means. On the inner half of the propeller blade, there's a great deal of turbulence going down the fuselage. And when you have turbulence going over something like that, you have less drag. Because, yeah, you don't have a laminar flow or a smooth flow going past that vertical piece. It's very turbulent and everything, so it doesn't give you the drag that a smooth airflow would. So, to be quite honest with you, I didn't notice any effect on the flying of the airplane. What I did notice is when the engine quits, the plane does, the original, okay? I'm speaking from 25 years ago now. The original did tend to slow down and have a higher sink rate than your average stunt ship. It wasn't as slippery through the air as your average stunt ship, which in some circumstances, I think that's good. Because the plane will tend to balloon less, and once the main gear on the ground and you kind of hold that nose gear down, the plane will slow down quickly. In answer to your second question, would I want to make them functional? These things are complicated enough, no. Any more questions? Mike?
5 coats you put on after the silk span, you're just knocking off bumps and stuff between them, or you just build it up?
The question is, while I'm brushing on the coats of clear over the silk span, do I
I read your articles, by the way, I just forgot that part.
Yeah, I know, Mike, you forget a lot fast. Do I knock it down? Generally, no. If I see an obvious defect, I mean, there's a wrinkle in the paper or something like that, yeah, I'll sand it down. But generally, what I want to do is get the buildup on the airplane. I want to get enough clear on there so that when I do sand it, I don't hit the paper. I want to sand to the paper, not through the paper. Any more questions before I go on to the next portion of this? Okay. 1 minute. All right, what I'm going to go over briefly, okay, is in the Crusader and this airplane with the anhedral, and if you're all familiar with the control systems of these stunt planes, you can't have because the control horns are a solid piece going from flap to flap, and you have an angle in this control horn, you can't get this thing to travel through its normal control arc without binding. Okay, what would happen is, it would, if you're all familiar with the oil canning effect, where when you squeeze something, it'll pop in one direction, then pop the other. Well, the flaps will tend to do that unless you come up with something that will not let the control horns bind. So what I did was, I came up with a split horn system. And the way I accomplish it, this is a side view of the control horn, the flap control horn. Can you imagine the size of the plane this thing went on? You need a big jet to fly this one. Make that flight streak look small. And what I did was, and you'll see the end, when I show you the end view of this thing, it'll clarify what this is all about. This is your push rod going to the bell crank, this is your push rod going to the elevator. And what I did was, rather than make right angle bends in the control rods or the push rods, because to do that, I would be bending into just one or the other flap horn. There's actually two horns here, and we'll see when I show you the end view. And what would happen is you'd be applying all the stress to one flap horn, and the other one would act as a follow-up. And I never really made the attempt to do it because I don't want to even take the chance. But what would happen is you'd have one flap doing most of the work and the other one just following it, and you may get some twisting forces in there that could throw the airplane out of trim. So what I did was, I came up with this system here, and if you look at this, this is looking at the trailing, from the back of the airplane, looking at the trailing edge of the wing. This is the trailing edge of the wing, and if you notice, I've got the anhedral drawn in there, and what I did was I took two control horns, and I cut one end off each control horn. This is the portion that goes into the flap, and this sticks out this way. And what I did was, that spade section that you saw solid, let me bring this back, maybe to clarify. What this is here is a piece of 1/16 inch steel that's drilled out to accept a 1/8 inch piece of brass with a 3/32 ID to act as a bushing. As you know, we all bush our control systems. And this is the same way, and that is silver-sided to the end of that push rod. And the same thing with the elevator push rod. Now, all this is acting as a carrier for the bushing. It looks complicated, but it really, really isn't. And at that point, rather than bending the push rod this way or that way, here is that spade section, and here is the bushing that is mounted in it. And what I do is I take a piece of 3/32 music wire, the same material we make our push rods out of, run it through both control horn bushings and that spade at the same time. And then what I do is I take a couple of number 2 washers and solder it to the outside of each control horn. So basically what you have is a pivot rod and this bushing and the spade that goes to the push rod sitting right on there. And this is the bushing inside of that. And what I do is, and of course this goes to the top hole, It's the way we do our control systems. And the bottom one going to the elevator is identical. And what I do is I offset them slightly so that they don't interfere with each other. And I put a spacer between here and here and a spacer between here and here to keep these things from riding this way. Understand that this is really, really emphasized, okay? It's drawn quite a bit oversized, and it's certainly not drawn to scale. I just wanted to give you an idea how this was done. And what this does is, it enables both of these platforms to move up and down without any interference in here, okay? And so that if you get the opportunity, move my control system, you'll see it's just as free as any other control system, and there's no binding in the flap area. That's basically what I wanted to talk about this, because I've been getting a lot of questions pertaining to, especially with the Crusader, because this is only 5/8 of an inch. The Crusader has 2 inches in each wing panel, and without this type of system, that airplane can't be built and flown. Any questions? Yes?
I could use the same type of liquids for the back, you know, the B-26.
Sure?
Which has the bike count like that.
Right.
The same type of liquid.
Yeah. The idea behind this is to enable both surfaces to move the same, but through an off-center plane. Okay. One other, I did want to mention something about yes, what I did want to mention is that I'm talking about anhedral, which is a downward droop of the wings, but there's no reason why this whole thing can't be turned upside down and used on other military type airplanes for stunts, such as the Mustang or any other type of military plane you'd want to fly. Yes?
Will these be available separately for us?
Excuse me?
Producing these for us?
Producing them? All you have to do is just take 2 control points and cut them. It's not a big deal. I'm sure we can work something out though. Any more questions? Okay, all right. What I have to say, you'll be hearing from me again later on this afternoon. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, next on the agenda, we tried something for the first time this year. We asked vendors to bring products, set up displays, or there's a bunch of people in this event, and they're small, but they support the event every way we can, and I think we ought to give a lot of credit for making the effort to come down. In the back of the room, we've got Scott Smith with Aerosmith, who does foam wing cores, among other things. We also have Jim Hunt, who I think he's older than dirt, and he invented a lot of the stuff that we use to fly control line. And Wendy's got his stuff over here. What I'd like to do is give each one of them a little bit of an opportunity to step up here and explain what they brought and the services and products that they offer. Okay, now I'm going to start with Wendy because he's standing right here and he's got the camera aimed. Now he's checking. When it was me, he didn't care whether, you know.
Who cares?
Pictures of the rest of the world. But Wendy's going to tell us this, and I'll go wake Jim and Scott up, and we'll give them a shot at talking. Mike is out searching for lunch. If these guys don't run, you know, if Mike comes with the lunch as they're still talking, we're going to have the awards presentation for the stunt series right after lunch. If not, it's going to be before lunch.
Okay, for anybody that's interested, I didn't bring a lot of stuff today. I don't want to tie this up like some kind of flea market or something. There's a couple of significant things that I have with me. If anybody wants them, the saving, of course, is you don't pay for the shipping and that you have it today. I have some line reels left out in the truck. I have some of the tubing that goes over the clips, which I see a lot of people haven't invented that yet, haven't figured out what that is. I just got a new supply, and we have a new local supplier manufacturing landing gears in all different sizes. Some are Randy Smith's new spinners, and these are real nice. These are probably the top of the line spinner available right now. have a supply of them. The belt cranks that I mold, they're glass nylon, 44%, and we still haven't figured a way of breaking one. Anyway, if anybody out there feels strong, if they can break this, they'll be the first one. Even Big Jim can't break it. Have some handles, short arms and long ones, big ones and small ones. And I guess my spiel for 2 minutes is all of these products are things I manufacture, make in-house, or trade with other suppliers like Randy. The other thing this is Jimmy's, I don't have any left. I sold the last one I had. These are 90 bucks. It's a digital readout scale. They're real nice and handy. It's an O-House LS2000 for somebody that doesn't like fooling with a grain scale. These are real handy. I usually have 5 of them at the shop at all times. Okay, but the biggest single thing, and I know there's people right here in the room here, I brought some videos here. If there's anybody here that would like to borrow them, and I have your word that you'll either return them or buy pizza, there's I think 10 or 15 of the ones that I had extra copies of. The crash repair ones that I think are real good if anybody's interested. Basic and advanced flight trimming of planes. Rather than spend $10 on a phone call, get it, make your own copies, steal them, lose them, whatever. We have all the contests going back to '87, all the Nats, all the team trials, almost every local contest. So if you want to see what you looked like 10 years ago, I probably have it on video. And I've found in my own that the most significant contribution I can make to this event is in a very unique way. I have a unique ability and a way to make things that are very redundant, boring, entertaining because of my wonderful personality. I find out from having seen other people that have made videos, and there's one right in the room, and I won't mention his name, Mike Chioda, that when they do things, the camera work is excellent, but you got to make it fun to watch because people get bored shitless. If your wife is watching this, you got to make it fun. So you guys are laughing, but what I really hope would happen, and I know at every contest lately, there's been 4 or 5 other people with cameras. They send me the footage, and it's like not exciting because you got to have that little. It's really, the word is bullshit that I'm looking for. You got to make it entertaining and fun. And I know there's some people that are, maybe because of their religious beliefs, are a little offended by it. But if it isn't fun, you're not going to watch it. And if you're not going to watch it, you're not going to learn. From these tapes, it's my feeling the most significant contribution I've ever made back to the hobby is through these tapes. Without the tapes, I would not be able to help as many people as often and make it fun to be. And if it isn't fun, you're going to get burned out and probably be hanging out in bars looking at naked women or something. So you really want to take, if you can, if you've never seen one of these tapes, some of the basic and advanced ones, take one home with you, see that I get it back. There's no money changing hands here. But please, get all your friends to watch it. You want to run off some bootleg copies, fine. If I find out you're charging money for it, I kill you. It's as simple as that. Now, there's a lot of people that don't know this information's available. We have just done a spray seminar at Scott Smith's. I didn't bring any extra copies, but very significant video. Scott's foam wing video if you've never sheeted a wing. Now, obviously, not everybody can live in this area and take advantage of this, but thousands of these tapes are out in the real world. I guarantee you people have learned, not only learned, but they've enjoyed it. You have to be, Mike, you got to make it fun to watch. You just can't take pictures of planes. The guys that do they're going to do VSC for me 2 or 3 years in a row, made a VSC tape, showed every plane, interviewed people without talking. You got to talk. You got to ask questions.
I'll put it in later.
Yeah, so if anybody's going out to VSC, I'm looking for a new photographer. Rich, sorry. No, but it's the truth. You have to talk. Mike, I want to hear talking on that video. Anyway, if there's nobody has any questions, the stuff is over here. You're welcome to pour it. If you get caught shoplifting, Brian Kiefer will beat the hell out of you. That's the end of it. Simple. And one other thing I can say over and over again. Please, 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 if you do nothing else from talking to me, the people that are in this hobby that are contributing, and there's a lot of them, Scott, Bobby Hunt's dad, everybody has put their heart and soul into making these products. And I think unconsciously one of the things we all do as suppliers is we don't try to compete with each other. In other words, if Scott Smith is cutting wings and he's doing a great job, I really would feel a little guilty about opening up Wendy's foam wing business. But what I try to do is carry some of Scott's products. I always have a wing or two laying around, and try to make it that everybody gets a fair share on the profit and everybody gets a fair share of the recognition for the work. I've sold my stuff, obviously, Randy Smith, Tom Lay, Brian Ether, all of the people basically have my stuff, and I have all of Tom Lay's stuff, and I want to put a plug in for the Tom Lay muffler. I've seen 3 or 4 of them here today. I went out to the field and flew it, did a pretty extensive test, and it is an excellent muffler. I would suggest everybody that's running a side exhaust Super Tiger, invest in one. It's a very light, well-made. I have one on my plane right now, for whatever that's worth. But all of the little people that are putting up money to develop this stuff and do it, please support them if you can, and be fair about. You should never turn this into a war of who's got the cutest belt crank or the shiniest horn or the best line reel. Support everybody. Everybody that's doing this work. If you had to go and make this line reel, make one and you'll die. If you had to take Delrin and start cutting these damn things out, about the 10th one, you'd throw the piece out the window. Having this stuff available makes your life easier. I bought aluminum and bent a gear myself one time. Bent 14 pieces before I got one that looked nice. The edge was saw cut. Took me hours to sand and polish it. When one guy puts up the money to make the die, support him. Buy it, if you possibly can. Now, on that vein, and I know there's people in the room that can understand what I'm saying. I've made horns since God knows when. I just tried to make a deal, and we closed the deal with Jim Hunt to make the little clips. He's already paid to make the die for the clips, and I know some people would like to have that included in with their horn, so all Wendy's horns will come with Jim Hunt little clips from this day on, or whenever he gives them to me. But that's the idea. If everybody works together, I think the hobby benefits, and having this stuff pre-made. Randy put up a tremendous amount of money to make this spinner. Now, if I had to go spend a couple $1,000 for material and run an NC program and everything, it's really a negative thing that somebody else comes out with the equivalent spinner and tries to undercut each other, and then I think the hobby suffers. So if it seems strange that I'm selling Randy spinners, Tom Lay mufflers, Jim Hunt's horn clips, and whatnot, and gear that are coming out of New Jersey now, the bottom line is if we all work together, the hobby will benefit. We'll all have nice stuff. It'll be fun to make planes. And anything that, if I start comparing my stuff to somebody else's, mine is better than yours, mine is shinier, fancier, better, it just turns into a negative thing. Everybody loses, but the biggest person that loses is the hobby. The hobby takes a beating, or somebody goes out of business with a bad taste in their mouth. I don't think that should happen. I know Tom Lay was annoyed that people thought he was using Stunt News to promote his whatever, gas tanks or whatever. But I don't think any of that's appropriate. The people in the hobby are busting their ass to make things, and we're certainly not making enough money. Anybody goes outside, look at the van I'm driving, you tell me how much money I'm making. But this is good stuff. Having the line reels is a good thing. Scott stuff, I carry Scott stuff, whatever. Okay, Scott, you're on.
Thank you, Bart. First off, I want to apologize. I'm fighting a little bit of a cold, so if I start coughing on you or whatnot, and I'm sucking on throat lozenges, not used to speaking with something in my mouth other than maybe my foot. So I just want to tell you quickly who I am. My name is Scott Smith. I'm the owner and operator of Aerosmith Model Aviation. Basically, as Wendy said, I'm primarily known for cutting foam wings and almost any foam core or foam components. Also manufacture the crawler, robot control line kit, and I have a couple of little specialty items. I have a belt crank that's for plane bearing 40 size ships or smaller that has standard type of stunt numbers. It's a 4-inch belt crank. I also brought along with me today copies of my videotape that Wendy and I made together on sheeting foam cores. It covers both the epoxy and 77 spray adhesive methods for doing that. I guess the only important thing I'd like to say is I brought a few cores just as examples of some of the stuff that I can cut. I have Pattern Master sets with me, wing and tail. I have an Impact, I have a Magnum, and I have one of the CD Max special wing cores. Just so you guys can get an idea of what cores look like for those who haven't seen them. But I would like to tell you that I have somewhere between 300 and 400 sets of templates in stock in my shop. Chances are pretty darn good if you're looking for a particular wing that already have the templates. They go back easily into the 50s. I even have templates for the original 52 Nobler, some of the more obscure designs, the old Ken High kits, things like that. I even have templates for Vic's F-14. I've actually cut a couple sets of cores for that Vic, but I don't think they ever got built.
Yeah, I think this is the only one that's been built other than mine. Mike Frank was
That's right.
in 1982.
However, if it's something I don't have templates for, you send me your plans with your order. I can make up templates and cut virtually any core for you. Or if you're a budding designer and you want to design your own airfoil, same thing. Send me accurate drawings. I can make almost anything. Alrighty. The one other thing I'll mention is along the same vein that Wendy mentioned. Pretty much all of the cottage industry guys really do work together. I think it's common knowledge here that I've worked quite a bit with Wendy. We have products going back and forth at all times. And we talk a lot on the telephone, we work on projects together. I have the same type of relationship with Randy Smith. Same type of relationship with Bill Hopkins. Bob Hunt and his dad. They go on and on like that. One of the most important products that I have to give to you is my knowledge. I can either tell you how to accomplish things if you're having a problem, or if you're trying to hunt something down, if you're looking for a particular product that you need to finish this latest ship. Because of these relationships, I pretty much know where you can obtain almost anything that you're going to need. Some of the obscure plans, I'm talking to people all the time who offer 2 or 3 sets of plans. That's all they have, and they don't really advertise anywhere, but I know where you can get a hold of them. So if you have questions, don't ever hesitate to call or drop me a note, and I'll call you back. The answering machine's always on, so if I'm not there, leave a message. I'll return your call, and I'll help you find the plans that you need, help you find whatever parts you want, or I'll give you whatever advice I can offer if you need building assistance. All right? That's about all I got, Rich. Here we have Jim Hunt. For those of you who may not know, is Bob Hunt's dad. Jim's a longtime modeler and the operator of CFC.
First, I want to tell you what a wonderful hobby you have and how long I've enjoyed it. Would you believe 72 years? Hey! I was building model airplanes when there wasn't any material. You had to go to a drugstore and get a bamboo pole out of the middle of the rug that they wrapped it on, sliced it, and then bend it around a candle and use ambroid. You ever hear of ambroid? Well, that was the only cement we had. Japanese tissue was 2 cents a sheet, and you got your bamboo for nothing. The ambroid was 15 cents a tube. So that's when I started building model airplanes. Now, a few things that you might be interested in. You know about my products. If you don't, you come back and look at it. I think we build the nicest set of hardware anybody in the business. A lot of people tell us that. A lot of kit manufacturers are now using it. It's keeping me busy. But that's all right. I just make more tools, more automation. Since I'm an automation engineer, it's not hard for me to make automated tools for my own business. And that's what I'm doing. Some of the things that we did in the early years, and you talking about a wonderful hobby. I built a scale model of a passenger plane for American Airlines one time. I got a picture of it back there. $125. If that same model was built today, it would be $3,000. That's how much. And those days, when I was a youngster, you could go buy a pair of shoes for $1.50, a tie for 15 cents, a pair of socks for 15 cents, a hat for $1, right? And a whole suit of clothes for $12. That kind of shows you what things were then. In fact, I built a little ROG, 12 inches wide, and made bent props for it. Bent them out, and I soaked the prop, put an 18-inch blank in water and saltpeter, and boiled them. And then put them in a little jig and put them in an oven at about 100 degrees. and they came out twisted and hard, and all I had to do was trim off the tips, shape off the back a little bit. So we used to sell an ROG, guaranteed to fly, ready to fly, guaranteed to fly, postpaid anywhere in the United States for 75 cents. Right? So from that on up to the point of where I got Rob flying when he was 2.5 years old. He won his first trophy then. So it's in his blood. And he's now building the lightest, strongest airplanes anybody's ever built. And he got a new system for that. So I'm very proud of that. The fact that my grandson is a whiz at flying, and he's doing well. Now, some of the other things that happened to me when I was a kid, and on up through the years, I built an outdoor tractor one time, 24 inches wide, 12-inch prop. And I was going to teach the kids in playgrounds at Louisville, Kentucky how to do this. We did it underneath the trees and on a beach, as long as it wasn't raining. And at the end of the summer, we had a big contest. Well, I went out to give a demonstration flight, right? Wound it up, I had the wings set a little bit too far forward so it could climb too fast. We all stood there and watched the thing climb out of sight, never saw it again. Rubber band powered, 12-inch prop, 24-inch wingspan. Just a stick one. So I've had a lot of experience. Another one along that line, when I was in high school, I would have a machine shop there that was better than any machine shop in town. It had the best equipment anywhere. In fact, some of the businesses used to come there and use some of our machines because they didn't have them. We had the best machines in town. So I did all the projects that they gave me to do in 8 weeks. Well, I had 20 weeks to go. So the instructor said, what am I going to do with you? I said, I'd like to build a little one-cylinder gasoline engine. I got, I think it was Mechanics Illustrated, had a set of castings and drawings that they sold you for $12. And I got that and I built the model engine. It was about 3/4 inch board stroke, 4-cycle. We used a Prince Albert tobacco can for the fuel tank. We didn't know. Nobody around ever done that around. So then I said, well, I've got to have a plane to put it in. So I built a 6-foot monoplane, carved the prop for it, put this Prince Albert tobacco can, which held about 5 ounces of fluid, right? And didn't use much for this 4-cycle, right? So we took it out to the airport late in the afternoon. They said, okay, all the planes are down, you can fly. So I let it go. And it took off and flew in about a 200-foot circle and just kept going about 5 feet higher each time. It got up about 300 feet and those crosswinds started taking it west. Each, you know, like a bugger fly, go this way and go that way, and it kept going. Well, the airplane came in and we said, do you see a model airplane out there anywhere? And you said, yeah, about 15 miles down the river and still going. I never saw it again. I don't know what happened to it. It probably landed in the river, because the Ohio River down there was quite wide. Now, some of the other things that's happened to me is, since I became, I wanted to be an engineer. And my folks didn't have enough money to send me to engineering school. I wanted to go to MIT, the worst sort of way. But I had a little model airplane business, and I was selling Jap tissue and cement and rubber bands and things like that, pins and whatever else they needed, balsa wood. I was the first guy in Louisville, Kentucky to cut and sell balsa wood. And I ordered 100 board feet from Fleischman Transportation Company in New York City. And it came down to one bundle, about so square and different things. Railway Express brought it in and had the whole thing on his shoulder. 100 board feet of balsa wood. It was about 3 foot square and various lengths. So we thought, that's pretty neat. Let's take a picture of that. So I got a picture in the newspapers, and from then on I was in the newspapers quite frequently because I was doing something different. And the model airplanes and the contests and everything, I had no trouble getting publicity. And we had a lot of fun. So I've had a lot of experience in this, and now I'm building hardware for U-control, bell cranks. I'm going to soon be building an adjustable rear elevator horn. I got a sample in my pocket. I'm going to make the die down and start making it. So every once in a while we'll add a new item. I just added one last night. A fuselage jig for making your fuselages nice and square and straight. I built one for my son 24 years ago. And a lot of the people that used to be members of this club used to come down and borrow it, build a fuselage, bring it back. I don't know how many fuselages that original jig has made. But I finished up the first one of the new run last night, and it's sold already. I talked to 3 people on the phone, I sold 3 more. So I guess it's a good item, and we'll keep building those. If you have any questions about the old timers and model airplanes, I even have the form that I spun the first aluminum cowling for the Galloping Comedian when Red Reinhardt worked for me, and he built that airplane. So I can still spin cowlings for the Galloping Comedian. That goes back a few years. That was, well, let's see, I built a Travel Air and had it in Model Airplane News in I think it was January 1952. So it's an old-time stunt. It's 500 square inches and only weighs 34 ounces. Oh, you guys that have heavy airplanes weep a little over that one. And that was built in 1952. The deal with it I built, same thing, except it's 1 ounce lighter. And if I'm going to build another one, I'm going to make it 2 ounces lighter than that. I'm going to stay under 30 ounces for 500 square inch airplane, 500 square inches. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. I could stand up here and tell these stories for hours. I have a lot of them. For instance, Rob, my son. I had little half-A jobs. OK motor, tester kit. So we used to put it on 20-foot lines and fly it in our front yard. And he got interested in it. He wanted that airplane. So I set him on my arm and gave him the helmet, and he flew at 2.5 years old. 2 months later, we went to a contest. He was the youngest contestant at the contest and won his first trophy at 2.5 years. Now, he may not like me to tell you that, but I think it's pretty good. So I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot of things. Some of the things that's being developed now, like the new wing system that my son has developed, a 710 square inch wing, ready to cover 4.5 ounces, and as strong as anything you can find. And don't forget, flying control line model airplane, you've got a weight on the end of the string. The more weight you have, the harder it is to turn it. So the lighter that airplane is, the better it's going to perform. But it's got to be strong. So you've got always this thing of making it light and keeping it strong enough that it won't come apart. When you start to take an airplane that weighs 50 ounces around a corner and try to make 5-foot radius corners, forget it. It's going to keep going. It's hard to keep those airplanes performing well when you got a lot of weight on them. So the answer is less weight and keep up the strength and the accuracy. Anything you'd like to ask me? Anybody? Yes.
Is your son gonna start selling these wings built up?
Yes, he's selling the patterns for him now that you can build your own wing.
Okay. But he's not gonna construct the wing?
No.
Is he gonna publish it?
We're gonna make videos on it, and you'll have those. We're working on that now. No. I've got one of the fuselage fixtures back there that I've made. I finished it last night. It's already sold. So, any other questions? Yeah.
Jim, talking about weight to power ratios, what do you think the maximum allowable weight should be for half-A ship, say, with about a 27 or a 38 wingspan? Just roughly.
All right, we found out that the ratio that you want to shoot for, and this is hard to get, let me tell you,
049 or 050.
10 ounces per square foot. Does that solve your problem? Go and check your airplanes and see if they're down to 10 ounces per square foot. If they're not, if they're down to 10 ounces per square foot, it's going to fly a heck of a lot better. Okay? Anything else? Okay, Tom.
I just have something real quick. When Jim talks about that lost foam method of building airplanes, with Bobby Hunt building the foam jigs, the Falcon over there was done that way, and it's the best wing I've ever had. And my new airplanes be done the same way. I highly recommend it to anybody. It's just makes it easy.
Tsunami's the same way.
Tsunami too, yeah. It's
Excellent
just
way.
great because you have a cradle and all the contours and everything's in the right direction, right where it should be. So it's really great. I just have one thing real quick. There's 2 books over here. I'm going to put them up front, and it's a very good collection. It's not all of them, but there's a lot of the classic era airplanes in those 2 books. If you want to see what they look like, because there's a fidelity to the original design that's been added to the classic event to cut out the cheating. And you don't have to have documentation, but if you want it, it's right there, and I'll be glad to make copies for anybody. Also, personally, I have probably about 50 different airplanes to plan, the plans to about 50 different airplanes, and I'll make them available. And then I'm hoping by about this time next year, I'll probably have a sideline business of my own, which will involve doing computerized or AutoCAD drawings for anybody who wants their airplane done. And then the big thing right now is it's lunchtime, guys.
Hey!
And I know most of it's out here. The pizza's not here yet, but I think everything else is there. Does Peabody have anything else before we... Where's Peabody?
Who cares?
Who cares, right?
Let's eat!
Okay, and I'll leave the books up here for anybody who wants to look at them.
Hi, this is Gary Lutz's personal album, and you can just flip through and describe what's on it. Okay. Obviously, Bob Gieske.
Yeah, Bob Gieske at the 74 Nats.
Okay.
This one here was...
No, you only can do this page face, and then we'll go back and refocus for that size.
I understand.
Okay, just do this page face. Billy Suarez, the Mass Cup winner, probably beat the shit out of me that day. Who's this? Windy and Dave Cook.
And
okay, look at me, when I was young. Okay.
And this just Billy Suarez's 85 jet. I'm not sure which one it was.
Yeah, that's the 60 jet when it was new.
Yeah. I don't think it's all the way finished yet. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. There it is, finished with the first paint scheme. And I think he changed that paint scheme a couple of times.
Yeah, a couple of times, yeah.
Okay.
Is that the team trials?
Team trials. I don't remember what year that was. This is up at Coxsackie.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Wendy.
Yeah.
Did you say that these tapes replenished?
Sure. Just return them.
Is the championship
The world champs. There's 3 tapes there. No, just take one. That's world champion. Yeah, yeah. It's the world championship. Take it and send it back to me.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
I know you're gonna cut my Strega lettering out next year.
I'm waiting. Everybody's telling me, "Oh, can you do this?" But I never hear from anyone.
I just gave a guy your phone number. I gave him that whole spiel because he wanted to make fancy lettering. All right, obviously Suarez when he was younger.
Yeah, Suarez younger
and when he was older.
Right.
He looks better younger. All right, good react.
Okay, this picture of Al Reed at the Johnsville meet. And this picture here, I'm not sure what plane it was. It was at the VFW Clifton, New Jersey Stunt Forum in '93.
I can't identify it either.
Of course, Carlos Serra, Jr.
Joe Ortiz, the bombastic one. Mike's old plane,
right.
The old 46 ship. Okay, Suarez's Magnum. There he is, John DeTavio. That plane looks just like mine. He refinished it perfectly.
the old frying pan, right?
Yeah, the old frying pan.
Okay.
Midgley's plane, nice, yeah.
And Carl Rachel's.
Carl Rachel's, right.
It's a bad
Adamusco. You should always, yeah, that's the end of the film, it looks like.
Yeah.
Mike Pratt's plane, that was nice.
And this was also at the Muncie, Indiana, in their open house that year.
Yeah, right.
Okay. I'm not sure which plane this was. It was a plane that was built by Dan Winship, but some fella there had bought it from him.
I don't recognize right off the bat.
That was also at the Muncie field.
Mike Karavich's flying van.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I had chores all day.
Damarel's plane, a profile.
The lieutenant.
So there's better.
Lieutenant, yeah.
I'm not sure who had this.
That's
plane.
Dave Knowles. That originally was Dave Knowles' plane. I sent some pictures of that to Win Paul too.
He didn't know whose it was.
Okay.
This looks like Harrisburg.
It was a Harrisburg meet,
Yep,
right?
yep. I flew that plane. It flew well. Mike giving his demo from a couple of years ago
Right.
for a 46 size ship. Yep. That's a pretty plane.
Yeah.
Real nice. That's a 46 size Pattern Master.
Okay, there's the old 20-pointer.
Yeah, the 20-pointer. Steve's plane, Busso's plane.
And this is Billy Suarez's plane in when he's
Filler?
finishing.
Oh, okay, during
building up
finishing.
the substrate.
Right.
And here's a picture of it at the.
Yeah, there's the bottom. Awesome, huh?
Right.
Awesome.
Okay, these are a couple of Suarez's jets.
The old P-38.
Yeah.
Plans available from Pro Stunt Products. I still have the plans to that. Awesome. That's my favorite of the twin boomers.
Okay, these are construction videos of my first Pattern Master.
I remember you sent me a set of these pictures.
Geodetic elevators.
Yep.
This is the plane in...
This is the green PM?
This is the green PM when it was in... this is bare wood. I'll take that back. That was silk span.
Yeah, I remember
before
this.
silver.
Here it is in
silver.
green.
And then painted green, but no panel lines or anything yet.
Yeah. It's all light coat?
No, the top, yeah, it was all light coat, undercoating, and then done with SIG colors, and then with 380S
380S clear, okay.
Right. Okay, this is just some more construction videos of the fuselage.
Okay.
Carved wheel pants.
Oh, the Sidewinder. Oh my God, he's got a picture of a Sidewinder. That's from the old house where I had the mirror in the bedroom.
Right.
Awesome. You know your stuff, boy. I don't care what Damerel says about you.
Okay, these are some real old pictures. This is a picture of the old Midwest Cougar with my sister holding it.
Yeah.
I must have been 14 years old when I built that.
And she's 72 now.
Yeah.
Old Twin Panther?
Yeah, Twin Panther I
Oh
had.
my God. 219s. Unbelievable.
Yeah, the torpedo 19.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a picture of my father's airplane. It's a new.
That looks like a lot of work.
It was a lot of work. It was a scale. He liked control line scale a good bit. Of course, the old SIG Acrobat. A couple more construction videos.
Yeah, right.
Wendy's way of doing tips.
Yep.
I think I've seen others of those that on the bypass on the case 30.
That looks real nice.
C.
The finished product. Oh, it is. Well, when we go to the other side of the album, we'll get Jim holding it.
Okay. Tsunami Liz.
Oh, Adamusco. I remember this day. Adamusco, the killer. Look at this. This is one of the really nice. Obviously, he has set the trend with that sawtooth look. That looks nice.
Looks sharp.
But Adamusco's okay. I don't care what they say about it. Look at this. He wouldn't give me that plane. That's last year's Stunt Forum. I begged him. I pleaded with him. Pretty airplane. Flies well, too. Steve DeGiulia, the finishing king of Pennsylvania. Oh, my God. Steve DeGiulia. Look at that. Awesome.
And this is Al Reed down here with Suarez's version of the Pattern Master.
Yeah, I flew that, too. That flew well.
That's our planes together.
Yeah, I flew that in Harrisburg.
In fact, I wish we could set up a contest down here. This is Andrews Air Force Base, and we got miles and miles of...
Well, set up a contest.
He'd like to.
Shit, just do it. Big Jim.
Big Jim. And this is also down at Andrews Air Force Base.
Yeah. Is that where Al flies?
Yeah. It's a huge macadam park. I've got all kinds of... You can put 5 circles down there.
I hear that.
It's all fenced in. Okay, here's Chuck Holtzapple's Craig Gunder.
Yeah, old Chuck. He's a good one, Gunder.
And this is a little get-together we had at Harrisburg, being as they stopped the...
Yeah, how come they're not having a contest this year?
They're not having a contest this year. I don't know why, but... So I've gotten together with Gunder and Holtzapple and Jim Tate and a few others. We have a little...
Have your own private contest. We used to go out to Holtzapples and just have fun flies.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing down here at the school down there.
Exactly, that school, where they used to have the contest. Yeah, we had a good time. Chuck is a good host.
Vic Russo's S11.
Yeah, the pink guy. Vidgley's playing.
Vidgley's
Look at that wild neon. He's a wild man. Oh, this is Coxsackie, okay.
Yes. And
Jimmy's playing. That's the one Borelli had. Joe Ortiz is playing.
Misty.
Borelli's other playing, yeah.
This is Chuck Holtz-Apple Squire.
Yeah.
And Jim Tate's new
Type shirt,
heritage
yeah.
with the OPS 4.
Nice looking. Nice paint job.
Billy Suarez. That's my plane. Just before the crash, I owe Wendy a prop.
Yo, Wendy, your life. Remember me and your will.
And there's just rebuild and refinishing. And that's
Great, okay,
that's
now let's flip to the other side. Hold on, let me refocus here.
my finishing after the crash last year.
Okay, this is after the crash.
And I talked to Midgley, he said never do this again, start using aluminum foil.
Aluminum foil is better, that's well-praised technology, that works well. Because this bleeds, if you drop some paint, if the gun spits, you get a big block on there.
Right.
Aluminum foil is so much, just don't squeeze it down into the paint.
Right.
Hey, tradition. Just can never seem to get away from tradition, you know. Lampion's playing.
This is a Jim
This is a nice
Tate
picture, yeah.
with his
I never saw that plane in real life, it looks nice there though.
It flies beautiful.
Yeah.
These two, I don't know whose they were.
I'm not familiar with it either. This is one of the guys from Coxsackie, but I don't know which one. And this is Beldor's plane.
Okay, this is a bad
Pete
picture. This is
Moscal.
Pete Moscal. Sure on this one.
Midgley's plane. Cardinal Sin.
Lampion's plane for sale.
Yeah, it was funny. He sold it though.
Oh, he did?
He dumped it, yeah.
For $1,000?
Dump is the better word. This is one of my favorites. That Adamusco knows his stuff. I don't care what Damarel says about him. Oh, there's Damarel. Where's my pizza, Damarel? Don't burp on video. All right.
I want to tell you, we got 6 pizzas coming.
Well, bring one over here. Don't be bashful. Food is on its way. Who would want to eat anything else when there's pizza available?
Right.
Is that a beauty? Look at the profile. When you're flying it, this thing looks so cool.
Doesn't have the original.
It really looks nice. Old Tsunami.
Okay.
You see that 6-foot Tsunami we're building down in the cellar
No, I
of
didn't
George?
see it.
Oh my God!
For radio
it's
control?
scale. It's not a structure. It's a scale.
Nice.
The fuselage you could sit on. So big. The James.
Big Jim Greenaway.
Yeah, he likes that PM. I know that. He likes the PM.
Just an architectural rendering of how the pieces fit together. That's all there was in the kit. What I developed
Construction photos.
copy with the original kit plans, and then the rest
There's a good. That's a nice photo.
That was taken.
That'd be a nice one to send in the stunt news.
That was the last contest on it.
That Edison?
No, this was at PA, Harrisburg.
Oh, okay.
shows you a rib and a few
Here's some old timers. The old Midwest Mustang, Aries, and the old Nobler.
No.
Remember when you could buy these kits for $10?
Photo. John had a couple. I don't know
Forget it.
sets.
Nothing's $10.
Which is the kit plans plus tracings. But he never saw an engineering.
It's good that you take all these constructions. Though. It's helpful if somebody asks you a question on building and you can show them in a picture. It's real helpful.
Gary,
Yes.
need your signature on this IOU. Don't ask, just sign.
Just sign.
Bruce Stecker had a heart attack, or I don't know, a near miss
Since
anyway.
Stecker is going to get a set of these videos, we can say all nasty things about him. Stecker.
Well, he had an angioplasty. Bruce? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 2 weeks ago, I guess. Ted Heinrichs talked about it this morning. He's home.
He mentioned it on the...
You know, he's laid up and all.
Let me sign it here.
Yeah.
And he was going to go out to the,
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's scrapped.
that's a shitty. What?
Who's later?
Bruce Stecker.
It must have happened this week because we were.
Didn't you just say him?
Really? Were you?
Stecker, we love you. Don't believe what they say about you behind your back. It's all true. All right, more Gary's things. Suarez with his custom Harley when he was a Harley rider. With extra stripes on it, extra paint, extra everything. Billy and Terry. It's a beautiful plane, no doubt about it. Front row plane.
Finished work on his plane.
Yeah, yeah. John D. thinks he's going to the ghetto here with his hat on backwards. Mike's old, the snowbird. We used to call us the snowman because it was all white.
Yeah.
Then he had Octopussy that had the thing on the bottom, the big eye, the creepy guy. Maybe that's the one.
That is the one.
With the creepy eye on the bottom? Oh my God. This is better, Mike. Stick with that paint job. Stick with it. This was great. I was there when Jimmy Cassell dropped his sunglasses right through the guy's tail. Oh man. And then he's sitting around looking like, oh, I can't believe I did that. We caught him. The Harrisburg pictures.
Yeah.
Very little escapes the evil eye. Mike Haravich.
Chinese superstar.
Believe it or not, this is one good flying plane, too.
I'm guessing it.
Yeah, he flew it down here.
Yeah. Jose Modesto, Voodoo Child.
You know, I can't see.
Good set of pictures. Glad we get this on. See, now the great thing about having this on video, you lose this album on the way home. Who cares? You need more copies? You got it. You can't make copies of these pictures for what I can make tapes for. Forget it. Billy again. Where's the pizza? Hey, you got it? Well, why aren't you bringing me some out? What, I didn't pay my $15 or what's the deal here?
We'll eat it all before we get there.
These guys have, you can't believe it, they're torturing me. They don't have, no pie for Wendy here. They know I haven't eaten. I'll see who my friends are to bring me some pie. They know I have to work during lunch.
Is that your plane there?
Is this mine? I don't know. Let's see.
No, that was Billy's, but is that yours there?
That's the sidewinder. Yeah, yeah. What a tragic year that was. Oh my God, that was the year they didn't have the circles cleaned. What a mess. And then I became the bad guy for complaining.
So I'll go about 10 minutes.
Never complain.
What you're going to do and how it works.
Let's eat. Time for pizza. Good album. Thanks for letting me videotape that.
Hey, Wendy.
Where's Fiona? Where the hell does he go? How can he disappear? He's like... We are going to find, by the way, we decided not to pull this trick on Banjock because he's a nice guy. Banjock, you're safe. We were going to hide this plane under a garbage can and then videotape him. We decided not to. There he is, right there. Look at his worm. You try to get this guy in business. You try to spruce his business up.
Instructions on that? That's what I want. They're stealing that.
Go away. Listen, go away. Mike,
Just come here.
I got your customer. Can you deliver? Or is it going to be... Now, you're on video here. Let me show you how to sell videos.
Step into my...
Can your attention, please?
You got videos for me for free. Can you give this guy some
Well, we
lettering?
want to get this stuff, get the show on the road again here.
Back up, yeah.
Everybody want to sit down. And the first thing we want to do
Let's
is
hide
of interest
Niebuhr's
to
plane while
everybody.
he's talking.
And it's the results of the Northeast Science Championship Series from last year, 1994. So, will everybody get up here, please?
Walt Russell, eat your heart out. Mr. Awesome Carden here. I love it. There's a bird on the tail, is
Bill
it?
Lennon? Can you get the guys in here to make the awards for the last
Look at the lettering. Check the lettering out. That dynamite? Whatever.
No, what just happened, our parent company.
Bad play. Bad play.
Jim, when they do the question and answer, they want you as one of the guys. No sweat, right? I'll protect you from all these guys. All right. Don't let, hey Jose, don't let him out. I have one question I want to ask him in public. You ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's go. Caruso's holding up production as usual.
I'd like to borrow one of his tapes. Make a copy and bring it back. Know my name?
Before we get out
No,
the championship,
I trust you.
there's a couple of things I think that should be of interest to everyone. First of all, it seems like from Quebec. And
Hey, let's throw him out! Hey!
go ahead,
Throw him out!
Michelle LaFrance. You want to stand up?
You're coming up here. You want to bet?
Andre Trudeau
Hey!
and Kern Morrell.
Hey!
Hey, we really appreciate having you here. They also brought us something that's very interesting. As you know, most of us, it's going to be impossible for most of us to make the Nats this year. And I know personally, I've always wanted to go to the Canadian Nats, but it's always been like 1 week before our own Nats, which made it kind of inconvenient. This year, there's a town in Ontario called Barrie, which is northeast of Toronto. So it's not really that far to go. The Canadian Nationals will be in Barrie. The whole program goes from July 8th to July 16th, but Stunt will be on Saturday, beginner Stunt will be July 14th, that's a Friday. Saturday and Sunday will be regular Stunt. This is the Canadian Nationals will be in Barrie, Ontario. So it's beginners on the 14th of July, and the regular Stunt will be July 15th and July 16th. And I think this could be a fun place for us all to go. So I know I'm going to try. Now, I think most of you are familiar that the last year and the year before, we've been tabulating points for everyone who has entered a contest. And even if you don't know it, all you have to do is enter a contest and you're eligible. And it's sort of like a driver's championships in auto racing, and we call it the Northeast Stunt Championship Series. The trophies are all gotten by money that's donated by the flyers, and generally I just run around and ask for money in all these contests. With one exception, the Edison group, the Ermac group, has been very generous for 2 years, and they've donated $1 an entry. So we've always gotten a check from them. The good news is we've been able to buy the plaques with $10 short. This year was $6 in the favor, so we're running very close on the money. But we have more money for 2 reasons. We have plaques in each Tampa category from 1st to 3rd. If we get more money, we can do it in 5 places next year, and I would love to do that. The other thing is the individual with the highest accumulated points, no matter what the category, is the grand champion of the year, like a driver's championships. We still don't have a perpetual trophy. What I'd like to do is have a special plaque made out, but we're going to need more donations to be able to do it. If you're not familiar with how the system works, basically it's based on first place group, whatever you are, and the points goes 10, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2. And no,
I'm sure you drill plenty of holes in those to light them up.
We ain't drilling holes in nothing.
Holy shit, quarter-inch doubles.
the outcome of some cases that did this year,
I'm impressed.
if you during the year jump over one category,
That is definitely awesome. I'm impressed.
6-inch wide piece of balsa, you can get 3 ribs. Went through a lot of wood.
You know what I have in my cellar now is a 7-foot wingspan scale tsunami.
I heard about that.
Awesome, awesome. It's like this.
Mega parts.
It's over $100 for the top block. I had to make it out of 7 pieces.
The single, can I borrow these?
Absolutely. Where are you going to go? Just mail them back or give them to the guys.
third place,
Should be gotten out. He's all right. He just got
got sick of this. And that's fine. I don't want to know he's got cancer. Things like this will be
He was here with Bob Generally. I hope they can come up. Dennis Kervensati here. Anybody see Dennis Kervensati with Bob Generally? Second place, a beginner. I know he's not here. Second place, a beginner. I'm sorry, intermediate, is Ron Fair. Is Ron here?
I didn't see him.
No, I didn't see him either. Okay. First place is going to surprise everybody because I think it's great. This is one of the up-and-coming champions, guaranteed. And he just bumped up from beginner. So believe it or not, first place in the Northeast Stunt Championship Series in intermediate is Brian Kiefer. Brian.
Probably out eating pizza.
Get those guys in here, will you? They're missing. Where's Brian? Well, I think you better tell him to come out here.
Boy.
Now, Brian, there are more important things than girls, you know.
Yeah. Watch it, Brian. They just want your money.
The Northeast Stunt Champion for intermediate, Brian Kiefer.
Hey! Smile, you boy.
In the advanced category, and here I think everybody's here. That's great. Third place in advanced, Joe Ortiz.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Joe.
Second place, advanced. And he helped give a demo before, and he's not expecting this either. Don Herdman. First place in advanced, and he's over there holding up the building against the pole. First place is Don Chiodo. I'm sorry, Mike Chiodo. Expert, it looks like there's nobody here that won expert this year. Ooh. We don't have to give that out, right? Anyway, expert, third place is not here. Is Bob Lampion? Second place, also not here, is Bill Suarez.
Billy!
And first place, this guy paid off the judges because it seems like
you got that
he's
right.
got to be paid off. It's got to be. Because he doesn't know how to lose.
That's right.
Which means he's paying them off. It's got to be favoritism, you know, and
absolutely.
He's actually playing both sides against the middle because he flies 60s, but he has Bob Giesche's pipe in his back pocket.
Keep digging, Tom. Paybacks are a bitch.
Tom, that's not his pocket.
First place expert this year, DeWindy Erdnowski. Now again, we're going to need more donations in order to take care of a perpetual plaque. So we're going to hold off on that award until we get it. But the grand champion, I might add, last year came out of the advanced category, was Jim Damarel. This year the grand champion is Wendy.
Let him pay for the trophy.
We might make him pay for his own trophy. This gets better.
I thought I paid for the last one.
What we'd like to do is have some special artwork done so that we can silk screen it on it. And we'll have to work
Just
on
make a
it.
perpetual trophy.
But we'll be working on this to see what we do for it. Okay, does Peabody have that Joe has? So, here's Joe Adamusco.
Hey, thanks, Tom. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Joe Adamusco. And while I'm waiting for these pamphlets that I made up to get distributed, maybe I'll just make a couple comments here to say that I'm happy to be here. This is my 4th Stunt Forum. And I remember the very first one that I attended. I tried to share some information that I, maybe developed or helped in a process of making rib templates, and I've always enjoyed being asked to come up here and do things. But today, my subject is going to deal with a method. Excuse me, I have a slight cold, so if I start to cough and gaggle a little bit, that's the reason. What I want to talk to you about for the next 10 minutes, excuse me, is a method for shaping curve control surface trailing edges. Now, you may be aware that I've, over the past couple of years, really got involved in trying to develop an elliptical shaped wing that, is straight, lightweight, flew halfway decent. I've made progress on that, but one of the things that is a spin-off for that I want to share with you today that I think can, relate to classic stunt type airplanes, old-time stunt airplanes, or any kind of an airplane where you have a curved control surface that you maybe somehow figure, well, how am I going to do this, and how's it going to be shaped up to a point where it is even and kind of fits your qualifications for craftsmanship and so forth. What I want to share with you is at least my idea, and it's only one of maybe hundreds on how this can be done, but I've had great success with this. So if you have a pamphlet, you can kind of follow with me. I'm not going to insult your intelligence by reading to you, but I'll try to demonstrate this one-handed. That's the microphone here in one hand kind of increases the air of difficulty, if you will. But the first thing you have to do when you're shaping a curved control surface is consider how you're going to go about doing this. If you're an expert carver and sander, like Wendy is, and the kind of work he can do with an X-Acto blade on a blank piece of wood, it's amazing. I've never really developed that kind of skill. I always had to depend on a jig or some kind of a tool or instrument that would help me guide my cutting surface, whether it's a knife or a tool or a sanding block, to obtain that nice straight edge. But when you get to a point with a curved surface, if you're trying to develop a flap such as what I've developed here, and by the way, these are flaps for an airplane similar to my Stuntress that I had here at the forum last year, it becomes a little more difficult to try to get that trailing edge tapered evenly from the tip to the root. So what I've come up with was an idea where I could take the plan form of my flap outline drawing, cut it out with a pair of scissors, glue it up on a piece of white pine, which is very easy to work with. You try to find a piece of pine board that's straight, doesn't have a lot of warps in it, is free of cracks and twists, things that would be a nice unit to work with. Paste up the cutout outline of that flap or elevator or rudder or whatever the curved control surface is, and then take it to a saw. If you have a bandsaw, that's nice. If you have a hand coping saw, you can use that. Jigsaws, saber saws, anything to get that curved edge cut. By doing that, then you sand it to a nice shape along the, it's hard to demonstrate this here, but along the trailing edge to get it shaped to the contour of your plan form. Okay? Then once you've done that, this will give you a base that your blank flap material or control surface material, let's say, can rest in. Now you have to decide, well, okay, how thick am I going to make this control surface? I like to work with 1/4 inch control surfaces for flaps. A lot of people like 3/8. I've seen folks that do it with 1/2 inch, or let's say that you're going to do a curved elevator surface. You may want to work with a 1/2 inch material, maybe even 5/8. Once you determine the thickness of your leading edge, the object behind this type jig that I've come up with, and it's nothing new, I'm sure Jim Hunt and a lot of others have come up with jigs very similar to this, is I take a piece of sheet metal, usually about 22 gauge or something about in the thickness of a car fender on the kind of cars we drive today. And you might ask yourself, well, where do you get a piece of sheet metal like this? Well, it's probably as close as your local refrigerating, air conditioning installer, their sheet metal shop. They'd probably be very happy to just let you go through their scrap box and pick up a couple of scraps of strip sheet metal that is close enough to 22 gauge or a few thousandths in thickness and take it home with you. And you can use that by drilling holes through it. The half inch seems to work pretty good for a trailing edge. 3/4 of an inch for a leading edge. You simply put this is a hard part to do one-handed here, but you cut a blank of, in this case, 1/4 inch material for a flap out of 1/4 inch, quarter grain. And it's a good idea. This is just a tip, and it's something I learned from Wendy that I've had great success with, is always to try to have the grain in that wood as parallel as you can get it to the trailing edge. With a straight taper flap, that's pretty easy to do. With a curved trailing edge, you kind of have to hit the happy medium, get it right in between. But once you have that blank cut, you simply insert it into your jig. And of course, I left out this step, and this is the reason I do these pass outs, because I go blank sometimes, follow procedure steps here. But you drill holes in those sheet metal strips. You can use small nails, and I've indicated the size of the nails and the size holes you can drill and all that. Or you can use these bulletin board push pins to hold your strip into position. Now in this case, I like to use, for at least this jig, and you're welcome to look at this, the leading edge of the flap, in this case, is a 1/4 inch material, and I like to have my trailing edge at 1/8 of an inch. So that means that my bend in my sheet metal strip on a trailing edge is going to be dropped down, so I expose 1/8 of an inch of the trailing edge of this curved flat balsa blank that I have in the jig. Then by having this in position on the table, I take a variety of sanding sticks. I use blocks also, but I find that sanding sticks work very good for me. It's almost like using a handheld file. And a 60 grit, an 80 grit, a 40 grit to maybe begin your cuts. And by the way, if you're allergic to balsa dust like I am, you might want to use a respirator or something to keep the dust out of your nose. If you have a sanding table like Wendy demonstrated earlier, that can be helpful on collecting the excess dust without getting it in your respiratory area or all over the house. But let's say you don't put a respirator on, it's a good tip anyway. And you start by using your coarse grained sanding material, abrasive paper. It can be aluminum oxide or garnet type paper. And you can very simply adhere it to these sticks by applying a surface of rubber cement on the stick or the block, one surface, and then on the back surface of your abrasive paper. Wait a couple minutes till it kind of gets tacky, and just put the two together, and you got yourself a sanding stick. And when it wears out, you simply peel it off and do it over again with more rubber cement. Works pretty good for me. So what I do, I hold the jig, and I start working at the trailing edge of the blank that's in the jig, and I grind it down, being careful not to take too much material or put scratches all the way across the material. And then as you start to shape your trailing edge, you want to move to a little finer grit. Again, this is nothing more than another sanding stick made out of fir strip material. I've got 120 grit on one side and 100 grit on the other side. You can final sand this using the sheet metal limits on your leading and trailing edge as limit guides. And as you start to feel your sanding stick scratch across the surface of the sheet metal guides, you have to be flat, you have to be straight, and it gives you a pretty nice finished result. When the blank, you're satisfied that it's pretty much sanded to the contour and the surface condition that you like for the jig, you can simply take the blank out, place it on a flat table, or that sanding box that will inhale all the sawdust or sanding dust, and take a longer straight edge like this aluminum T-bar. And again, I use that rubber cement technique to apply the abrasive paper, and finish sand the unit to, the surface that you like. And this is probably a 220 grit that I like to finish with. Now, I asked Jim Borelli not to come up here right now and demonstrate this, but later through the series of time that we have this afternoon, Jim's going to take this blank that's in the block and he's going to work with some of these sanding sticks, hopefully put the respirator on if he's allergic to dust, and shape himself a nice set of flaps for that new elliptical wing he's been talking about building. So I'm going to try to give him some incentive to get that thing going one of these days, so they'll have a pretty good set of 6-pound quarter grain flap with the start. So that's about all I really wanted to talk to you about. The little brochure, a 3-page blank that I passed out to you, I think shows some sketches or examples. You can follow this, put it in your file. And of course, if you ever have a question on wanting to do any of these things, just give me a call or drop me a line. I'll be glad to help you. So with that, if there's any questions right now, I'll be willing to answer. But you're going to actually watch Jim do this thing on a table in the back here, so you might be interested in seeing that. So until I have a chance to talk to you the next time, live to fly and fly to live. Thank you. Oh, you really want to see that thing? Yeah. Well, I'll bring it up.
Why don't we get Jim Borelli up here and haul this stuff away and go build flaps? Where's Borelli? Joe's going to tell us about his airplane.
Oh, about that. I just had one roll off the table.
Right, this is another little tip I picked up from Wendy. Matter of fact, the big tip is laying right in front of you. I have Wendy and Vic, and a lot of the other fellows in this room have been very influential on me learning how to build these kind of airplanes. And I'm trying to get better every year. And hopefully, who knows, 10 years from now, I might really be doing something here. Wendy showed me this little tip where you have your airplane on display on a table like this. You have the wheels all oiled up and they're roll off the table. You simply take a piece of 1/4-inch balsa and cut a little slot or hole in it so that it can fit right into the landing gear of the wheel, and acts as a wheel chop. It also works if you have a vehicle big enough to have this laying flat on the surface in the back of your van, or a beautiful van that Pete White is going to be up there in today. It's like a small bus, really. It had a nice flat space in the back. You simply chalk your wheels to those little balsa chocks and the airplane doesn't go anywhere. It really works out good. Okay, a little bit about my airplane. This is Mr. Awesome. And, that name does not imply that I'm Mr. Awesome or that I fly like Mr. Awesome.
Sure it does. That's good. Awesome.
But Reno Air Races, I always had an interest in them, and I know Wendy has. And you look at some of the names of these airplanes, and that's pretty much how I came up with this one. I knew that one time there was a Reno racer named Mr. Awesome that crashed. The pilot walked away from it, but I thought that was a nice, neat name for an airplane. It's not machine-like. It kind of gives a little personality. Now, if this airplane ends up flying like a slug, you might not see Mr. Awesome out there on it.
Mr. Sluggo.
But I think it's going to be okay. And essentially, the reason I feel pretty positive about that is because it's basically a Cardinal, which is a windy, big Jim Greenaway kind of design airplane with a kind of sort of Patternmaster wing. It's a little thicker airfoil, but it's essentially the same airplane as my 1993 Cardinal that I had at the Stunt Forum. Same airplane. I like the wingtip shapes on Wendy's tradition, so I decided to, try my hand at copying that aesthetic curve. If you look at the profile of this airplane, it's just about identical to my Stuntress. That's the elliptical shaped airplane I had here last year. So I combined the two, and what I'm really looking for is to come up with an airplane that is kind of my visual signature, something that when you see you're going to know it was mine, because it'll be my own styling, if you will. For me, a change of pace is I now have an airplane with landing gear in the wing. This is a big step up for me. Basically because of the flying fields that I don't have access to that are nice, smooth, paved surface. Usually I have to fly off the grass. And this airplane has provision, if you can see under my left hand here, for a fuse-mounted landing gear. So amphibious or ambidextrous, or I could go both ways here, okay? I could have the gear in the fuse and in the wing. Another thing that's different on this than my other airplanes is the fact that the stab on this is a geodetic stab, meaning that it's made out of basically quarter grain 16 sheeting with zigzag geodetic ribs and a trailing edge sheeted top and bottom. Comes out extremely light, extremely rigid, and that's something that's really important. You never want to have an airplane that's too tailheaded. This has quarter-inch flaps, built-up wing construction. Probably an overbuilt to some extent because it has spruce spars that are carbon fiber laminated. That's total overkill. I could have saved an ounce on this airplane by eliminating that style of spar for this kind of wing. But it has the big GMV deflector air duct through the bottom of the airplane here to help cool the Hemi 60 that's in here. And that's pretty much it. One thing that Wendy challenged me to last year was to put the name on the bottom of the airplane, will you? So I did. And I'm glad I did, and I'll tell you why, because by putting that Mr. Awesome logo on here, I'm glad I did the bottom first, because I had experienced a few of those hair pulling problems, those little bumps that you have to go over to get something, the techniques ironed out first, although the bottom come out good. The top Mr. Awesome came out a little bit better because I had a place to practice, if you will, for the initial stenciling. So, by the way, on that, I started out with a Frisket paper, which I had great success with in the past, but as you start to get in very elongated, wide open space, thin line lettering like this, it gets to be a little rough to get it all in alignment and get stuck down in one place evenly. So I ended up using plain old Xerox paper, the same kind of paper that you have, that little write-up that I passed out, and I just cut the stencil out of that and used low-tack 3M artist adhesive spray to spray on the back and stuck it in position and got the old airbrush out and painted. So that's about it for the plane. Right now, as I'm holding it right here, it weighs 62 ounces. I know it'll pick up some weight with tip weight and a few other things I may have to change on, a muffler and so forth, but later on in the year, we'll have a chance to see how this flies, and I hope if it flies as well as my Cardinal, I know I'm going to be a happy pilot. So, that's it. Thank you for your attention. Yes, sir?
How's your cowling?
The cowling, is attached with two hold-down screws just behind the head of the engine, as you can see. That's Wendy's patented this small hold-down technique. Works very well, doesn't come loose, easy to take off, service the engine and so forth. And that's all it's holding on there, 2 8-inch screws. Nothing in the front. And of course you can see the bottom of the fuse is flat. And it makes for a rigid construction. It's simple. And although the airplane internally is not that simple, it's just a big old stunt ship that anybody who can have some fun with. If you want to spend 700 hours to do one like this, it's all it takes. Actually, it took me about 5.5 weeks to build the airplane. The rest of that time was sanding and painting and rubbing and doing all the rest of it. But that's I have more time to build than fly. And just in case you're interested in this, I can, with my schedule and family commitments and so forth, I have about 30 hours a week to spend during the winter building a bunch of what have you on long airplanes. And that's a pretty substantial block of time. Conversely, my flying time during the year, and I looked this up in all my little logbooks that I keep on my flying sessions. I only get out to fly 15 to 17 times a year. Okay? So if I'm lucky and I get out on a Saturday and a Sunday, that's 2 flying sessions a week. That's really great for 4 hours of time. So I don't spend as much time flying as I do building. Well, I'll tell you, I'm looking forward to the day when I can, retire or be on a job where I don't have to work 40 hours a week or 56 hours a week or however it works out. Maybe spend 30 hours a week flying. That's when the really flying to live part of this thing is going to come into view. So thank you for your attention, and I don't want to take time away from the next speaker here because there's more interesting topics and subjects to get into. Thank you.
Okay, as we get set up, our next speakers are Jimmy Damwell and Tom Hampshire are going to talk about old-time stunt. A significant, and he's going to tell us about some of the flying characteristics of them and whether plans are available and like that. Why don't you go first? You give the history.
Yeah, because I don't have any history to give, so let's talk to it here.
Oh, okay.
Talk about availability of other.
We're really organized here. Boy, what coordination.
It's old time, you don't need to be...
Yeah, it's old time, so we don't get the microphone on the right side, and we're not really too squared away. We probably smile a lot more than a lot of the other faces, though, so I'm rather happy to be out with ancient stuff. You've just seen Joe Adamusco's craftsmanship. I'll be the first to tell you, I can't begin to get close to that level of quality. It's just fun for me. Maybe someday I'll get real pumped up and serious. Till then, I enjoy myself. You've also heard from Joe and from Wendy and from Vic and from the other Pampa guys, all of these examples of success after success after success. I've always found that I do a little better by learning from the mistakes that I make. And I make them by the gallon full, by the catalog. I got mistakes. The first one is this thing. This is the first OTS legal airplane that I ever built, coming back to the hobby as an adult. I had ringmasters and such as a kid. This thing I picked out because I thought it was pretty. And you build it with silk and dope, and it's old-timey and it's pretty and all of that. It's a terrible choice as an airplane. 2 guys that I know, Danny Van Jock has one and Doug Benedetti has one, both of which have ignition systems in them. What it's got wrong with it is the wing. And if you look at it end on, you'll see it's got 2 things that you really don't want. The reason you don't want to build one of these is it's got a very thin airfoil, it's got a very sharp leading edge. Both of those characteristics mean that as soon as you load it heavily in a turn, the wing stalls. The flow separates right about at the leading edge and it doesn't turn. So in real world terms, this thing can get through an OTS pattern. The best I ever did with it was I think I got 3rd at the 20th anniversary of Old Time Stunt 5 years ago this coming fall. It does lack for turn. This one is light and straight, but in the second half of the outside, in the vertical 8, every single time, when you get it right over your head, you're going to start cranking in the down elevator, and you're going to be flying it on one line, and by the time you finish to get it to come inverted at 45, you're going to be flying it on one line, and you have the handle down someplace around your knee. And then you take a step back, and you do the inside. If you like the look of it, and I certainly do, warts and all scarred and old and crunchy looking. If you like the look of it, don't build one. Instead of building one of these, build yourself an F&B Viking. It's a dead ringer for the fuselage configuration, but it's got a wing about twice as thick with a nice blunt leading edge. Real good choice, but don't build yourself a Zilch. The only exception to the Zilches that, as far as I'm concerned, is the one that Bob Zambelli mentioned, the Wee Duper. That's an 09 to 10 size airplane. That thing has a wing twice as thick as anything else that Safdie ever designed. He designed that one in 1951. He had to have known how much better that thick wing worked. And for some reason, it never got adopted. And he built the expendable and all of the later stuff when going back to the thin wing. Why is a mystery to me. This next one is one designed by a true genius. You're not going to find anybody any better at this stuff than the guy who built this. The guy who built this was Red Reinhardt, who I knew only slightly as a youngster. The way that I knew him was that one day in 1958 or so, I was flying at Rich's Hobby Town, and Scarinzi was there, who I thought was just out of this world, and somebody showed up. I didn't know this guy. His name was Red. And when he showed up, they made this big fuss over him. Red's here. My God, you'd have thought they were going to fire up the orchestra. Red's here, Red's here, Red's here. Larry commences to have Red fly his airplane. This guy had not had a handle in his hand for about 3 or 4 years. And he took off from a hand launch, flew one lap level. It came around, he did a wing over, and he pulled the reverse wing over out with a rudder in the grass. And I thought to myself, geez, that guy is either good or lucky, real lucky. And then he did it 5 more times, and I went away thinking, geez, this guy's good. This guy's really good. He had an excellent hand. Once stunt airplanes started to go slowly, he kind of dropped out of the picture. He wasn't around. Once flaps and the nobler style of flying came into vogue, he really wasn't around. In his day, flying 80-mile-an-hour stunt, apparently this guy had eye-hand coordination about like the kids that get to be experts with video games. He could just split a whisker with a model airplane. He did a spot landing one time that left the airplane standing on its spinner in the middle of the spot. And he looks over at the judges at the mirror meet and says, well, fellas, you think you can find a way to dock that? And there it stood, imperfect. This thing is a real slinky-looking airplane. The trouble with this and the trouble with all of his designs is that he did, in his head, without any computers and without any mathematical training, a very, very elegant stress analysis on the wing. I don't know if you can see through the silk, but if you look at that main spar, it starts out being 3/8 of an inch thick at the wing root, and it's tapered forward to be 1/8 of an inch thick at the tip. That means that you build the wing by first building that very elegant tapered spar and then cutting each rib in half, gluing the back half onto the back of the spar, the front half onto the front. Then the false ribs go in, then the leading and trailing edges go on, then the cap strips go on. Lastly, he did something that I don't know if there's anything else that has it except the Frisky Pete. That was published with it. Instead of leaving the trailing edges hang slack, his plans call for shear webs at the forward of the trailing edge. And if you build the wing the way he tells you to, it's a very tough subject. It's very, very difficult to build it accurately. Once you build it accurately, you got an absolutely beautiful wing that'll never warp and which has the happy property of having the strength and the weight concentrated in the middle, instead of having top and bottom spars or a D-tube where the tip of the wing is as heavy and as rigid as the root. He didn't believe in that. He put the weight at the middle of the airplane and let the tips flex. You can make a zilch work with monocoque. This thing, if it's built with reason, this one is heavy because it came from a kit that was a gift from a buddy and I was obliged to build it. If you build this the way he intended it to be built, you had better silk it because the silk is an integral part of the structure. This is a good OTS airplane, but not the absolute best. The best that I've ever flown, and it's a little bit scarred and slashed now, is this thing. This is another Reinhardt airplane, a 1950s Plymouth Internats winner. It never had a name as such. It's not a Whizzit or a Whistle King or a Stunt Shamaz or whatever. It's the 50s Plymouth Internats winner because he took it to the Plymouth Internats and won with it. This one is pretty greased up because I made Damerel, Niebuhr, Peabody and Company royally mad at me by putting a diesel in it, which never worked very well. If you like to annoy yourself, I would heartily suggest that I have a PAW 19 diesel that's for sale, or if you if you want to bargain hard, you can probably work out a cash bonus if you'll come cart it off the premises. The diesel oil eats stuff. This airplane is an even tougher subject because if you look at that configuration of the planking, there's a 16th-inch vertical spar through the middle of that wing, but the D-tube is tapered. Okay? Think about that. The way that these guys built these things, Reinhardt and Scarinzi, they built these things in the air. They didn't have fixtures. They didn't know about lost foam or building boards. They would start out with a spar, draw the lines on it, cut a rib, cut the dividing line on the plans, and glue a half of a rib in place. And they would continue that process until they had the ribs assembled to the spar. Then they put a piece of the trailing edge on, the other piece of the trailing edge, the leading edge, then they put on the sheeting. All of this is done in their lap. There's no fixtures. I have sat and watched them do this, and I can't do it. I can't explain it to you. This one was done in a lost foam jig. And that makes the whole thing very easy. It makes it idiot-proof. All you do is follow the template lines that the foam cuts generate for you, and it works. If there's anybody here who gets to the point where they can build one of these things in their lap, the way the old masters did it, come on up here, because I'm ready to listen again, and maybe I can even figure out how they did it. This particular one, it's a little shop-worn now. This is a real good one. It weighs 22 ounces. It's got as it stands now, it's got a little Fox 25 in it. This is pulling away the best OTS airplane I've ever flown, including borrowed flights on other airplanes. This thing is real good. The price that you pay for that is structural complexity. This is not the airplane that a guy who'd like to try OTS for the first time wants to build. This that wing will eat you alive unless you have 20 or 30 ships under your belt. It's a real tough subject. What I would suggest for somebody who'd like to just start out, come out, fly OTS, enjoy themselves, and have some laughs, is one of these. This is, whatever it is, PDQ Models, Millville, New Jersey, is the name of the company, Super Clown, okay? Their quality control was absolutely awful. It looked like their stuff was cut out by beavers in the woods after dark. Just horrendous. It's like Sterling, only worse. Just awful. This one is scratch built from plans. The reason that I would suggest this is, number one, the absolute dead simplicity of it. It's a sparless wing. Because of that, you should silk it. You should not expect that iron-on coverings will make it hang together. The other thing that it has, relative to the circle burners rules of OTS, the way we go about it, is this is one of the 3 airplanes that has, on the original plans, a mention that the flaps are optional. What that does is it means that if you build one of these things, you can fly it in whatever Pampa class you're in. Mike Costello does that. But you can also take it and arrange a linkage gadget. I'll show you how to do it afterward if anybody wants to pursue it. You can arrange linkage so that you can disconnect the flaps and lock them in center. That means you can enter phase 1 and phase 2 with the same airplane. Not a bad way to go if you want to get, a good amount of use out of one airplane. You're going to have at least as much fun fooling with old stuff as you will bringing it out to fly in contests. The other thing I'd mention about this one, this is real light. This one is about 19 and a half all up with an old Fox 25. It was an RC one that I made a Venturi for $7 at the junk show. I haven't found any place better than I can spend $7 than buying one of these at the junk show. Structurally, this is an interesting one because aft of about the high point of the wing, you'll notice that the fuselage is very square. The typical profile, it looks kind of crude. The reason for that is that after the high point of the wing, the fuselage is a foam composite. It's just a piece of foam cut to the outline, faced all the way around, 16th balsa on the sides, end grain 3/32 top and bottom. So you can't sand it to that rounded contour, but you're going to take about 1.5 ounces out of the airplane, building it that way, and you'll also get very acceptable torsional rigidity after the trailing edge. Like that. That means that the tail will not flex to the same extent in this airplane that it will with a balsa wood profile. That's something that in my own feeling my way through this stuff, I'm pretty sure is important. Everybody thinks that profiles are terrible because the engines don't run. That's true. You can build, with you put enough fiberglass in it, you can get the nose rigid enough to support an engine run. I have a couple of them that give the motors work, but I'm satisfied that if you really whomp it good in a hard square corner, you can make the airplane flutter because the body after the trailing edge lacks torsional rigidity, and the tail surfaces are walking around on you in the middle of the corner. As soon as you take and let off on the control, it comes back together and it starts to fly again. But while it's in the corner, you can upset it. You can knock it pretty far off balance by hitting it hard. That's what I have. Jim, over to you on less questions. Steve?
Catch the rules by using that plug back there?
No, that's internal. Okay? You're entitled to make any internal strengthening structural changes that you want. Okay? Dick? Yes. As far as I am concerned in it, if you get rulesy about this stuff, you take all the fun out of it. As far as I'm concerned, yes, you could build that airplane with top and bottom spars, a C tube, a D tube, do it any way you want, and you don't have to honor it. I honored it because, to me, I am still, to this day, in awe of the guys who can build those things in the air, gluing one piece together at a time. I don't know how they did it. I suspect it's like a musician who looks at a Stradivarius. You have the thing, and you know it works better than anything that was ever done, anytime before or after, and you can't figure out how he did it. Same thing if you're a furniture buff. It's the same thing as looking at something that Chippendale or Hepplewhite did with his own hands. You look at that, you look at a modern day shop with computer-controlled wood-cutting machinery, and it's still not as close. They're still not as precise, and it's just a mystery to me. It's the wonder of the ages. How did they do that with an X-Acto knife and nothing else? I don't know. Jimmy.
Thank you, Tom. And as far as the craftsmanship goes, if you're looking for a reproduction old-time airplane, I'd say this is about as far as you're going to get. They don't need to be any prettier or fits any better. I just wanted to touch on a few things. They wanted me to do a little bit on the history of old-time stunt, but without John Mist being here, I didn't want to bother defecating that. I did want to point out that 25 years ago, John Mist decided it was time to go back and fly the old airplanes again and have some fun with them. And he started old-time stunt in this club. In 1970, we had the first contest, which means rolling around this fall, I'm sure you've heard about it, we've got the 25th anniversary contest for old-time stunt, second weekend of October. We're going to make it a big go. We're going to try to get people in from all different parts of the country. Find a ringmaster, come on out and fly with us. There's flyers outside for it. Tom talked a little bit about the availability of airplanes. I wanted to make sure everyone had been looking in their last stunt news, where they have this beautiful pictorial, strangely enough, all about old-time airplanes, covering up to about 1951, I believe. You guys have all seen that. I won't bother you with that. But then I come here today, and on sale from Pampa, old-time stunt construction drawings. This thing has every published design for control line stunt with a miniature plan from, I believe it's 1947. This book goes up to 1952. Anyone looking for something that everyone else doesn't have, you'll find it in here. This plane's in here I've never seen. And I've been to old-time contests, as has Dick Woolsey, from one coast to the other. This plane's in there we've only dreamt about. Now, I know earlier we talked about how many advanced expert flyers we were. I found out 2/3 of the audience here was below that. Is there anyone here that doesn't know what we're talking about with old-time stunt? Is anyone unfamiliar with Class 1 and Class 2? I know we just glazed over that. Basically, Class 2 is an event run only in the Circle Burners Club right now, and it's for airplanes with flaps. And there were quite a few of them designed pre-52. The original Nobler falls in that category. This is the original Smoothie, the Chief. But as Tom mentioned, only the Sterling Mustang, Sterling Yak, and the Flying Clown are the only three we know of that were options on the flaps. And if you've ever seen John Linderman fly his drone diesel prepared Super Clown, he has a system where he simply just hooks the flaps up to a push rod and flies Class 1, and then hooks the flaps back up on the airplane and flies Class 2 with the same airplane. Has a lot of fun with it. The other thing I wanted to touch, especially for the beginners out there, is the old-time stunt pattern lends itself quite nicely to people just learning how to fly stunt. And even though there is a Pampa beginner event, strictly because of the round maneuvers and the way the pattern is flown in old time, it blends right into how you learn how to fly. Most people, the first maneuver they learn, once they have control of the airplane, they start doing climbs and dives. That's part of the old time pattern. The next maneuver people move up to is loops. There's round loops, part of the old time pattern, not combined with inverted flight, executed by themselves, 5 of them, concentric loops. When you get to the 8s, most people, when they learn how to do an 8, first thing they learn is the lazy 8. Half an inside loop into an outside loop. Again, that's just the way it was done in the original pattern. So it's a much smoother event for someone to start in. And I think it's the perfect first rung on the ladder for you guys that have been building planes and enjoy flying them and just want to come out and try your first contest. A, because we're not serious, we have a heck of a lot of fun. And B, the planes are easier to fly and the pattern's easier to fly. I know there's a lot of people that come to the forum, there's a lot of people that come out and fly airplanes that we never see at contests. And I just want to make sure it's emphasized. Talk to anybody that's been to Tucson, anyone that's been to our old-time meets, anyone that's been to John Linderman's old-time meets. We have a lot of fun out there. People plant airplanes, you laugh about them, you pull them up, you clean them off, you fly them the next round. Because they're not meant to be super, ultimate, precise, super light airplanes. They survive a couple of bounces, they keep on flying. They're nice, square, straight wings. Anyone can build them, anyone can patch them. And they get right back up in the air again. It's also a good basic way to learn the fundamentals of model airplanes. Before you get into trick mufflers and trick motors and trick motor mounts and strange construction, go back and learn it the way the masters did it. Learn why you've got to make a strong fuselage. Learn an airplane where the motor is upright and accessible and you can see what's vibrating and what's not working. I learned more going backwards and building the old planes than I ever did trying to figure out the new ones. Because like everything else in this world, you find out if you don't know the basics, the advanced stuff doesn't help you much. You just keep falling in potholes and you go back and learn them. And these airplanes are one hell of a good way to do that. That's about all I got to add, folks. Any questions on old time while we're up here? And especially any questions you have about the contest in October, talk to us today. Any special suggestions? This is still definitely in the formative stages. We may or may not be having some special events on Saturday. Yes, Joe? If you have a plane that you own back then but it is not qualified? Non-builder of the model rule. This tends to be a club-to-club thing. I believe in the original Circle Burners rules, it is not specified, correct? Or is it?
It didn't say.
At the time the event started in 1970, AMA had builder of the model rule for all events, and no one overrode it then. Nowadays, it's common practice that if you want to come out and fly, come on out with the airplane and fly.
Guys, I would echo that, and I would say that you will occasionally run across people
who want to debate what's legal and what isn't in OTS. Can I add graphite? Can I make a spar here? Can I brace this up inside? As far as I am concerned, and I think I speak for the Circle Burners generally in our efforts with OTS, as far as we're concerned, generally, run what you brung. If it's not an outright cheater with a stretched tail moment platoon pipe, you're going to be able to fly it. And if somebody shows up with the modern day plank ringmaster or shows up with an airplane they didn't build, as far as I'm concerned, the name of the game is to get the airplanes in the air and fly them, and let's see if we can enjoy ourselves. And if it gets to the point where it has to be rulesy, well, then we'll worry about then. So far, Manana has stretched for 25 years, and we haven't had to worry about it yet, so we're not worried.
I'm on the 8.
Sir? Is the foam wing internal considered a change in internal construction?
Technically, it's an internal modification and it is legal. Actually, in the initial article by John Misk, I think foam wings were mentioned as not being legal. This again gets into the same boat as the new style Ringmaster with the plank leading edge. It's been claimed that that airplane is not legal, but the only difference is it's a plank leading edge. As Tommy said, come on out, bring it, and fly it. If you get serious in the event and you're up flying near the top, you're not going to want to fly a plane that's not, you know, as someone said, you could build this Internet's winner with a D-tube wing and spars and everything else. But when you get to the level where you're trying to recreate the era and not just come out and play, then you don't want to do that. You want to build the real plane. And you'll find, you know, you want to come out with a plank Ringmaster, you want to come out with a foam wing airplane, you can fly it. And you can, no one's going to say probably anything bad against it, but as you get serious in the event, I don't feel it's what you're going to want to have. But by all means, now, come on out with it. Yeah, Steve.
I grew up in Sterling. The Plank Ringmaster was built a couple of years after. Well, with the solid leading edge, it's never put.
Quite a few years after, yes.
Yeah, but they had one with the plank, fully plank leading edge.
By Sterling?
Sterling, yeah. I grew up